This is part of New York City Clean Heat Program webinar series on how to handle boiler permit expirations. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Luke Sarwick. I'm one of the account managers for the New York City Clean Heat Program. And just a little bit of housekeeping. If anyone has any issues hearing me or viewing this webinar right now, please go ahead and call the 212 number that you see on your screen right now. It's 212-656-9202. That's 212-656-9202. We have someone there that can assist you with both the audio or the visual. You could also email us at info@nyccleanheat.org. And we'll go ahead and get started. The agenda is just as you see here. We'll introduce what the Clean Heat Program is, the regulations and why they were put into place, and the issue at hand here, which is the topic that we'll be speaking about, the expiring permits and how to deal with them since we're coming up on the last year for number 6 oil permits in New York City. And in the end, at the end, we'll open up the line for questions. So for now, I have everyone muted just to prevent background noise. And at the very end, I'll open up the lines for questions, and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. There's also a dialog box that you'll see on your screen where you can type in questions, and I will attempt to answer them at the very end of the presentation. So if you could do either one of those, that would be fantastic. All right, so just a little quick intro. NYC Clean Heat is part of NYC. We provide free technical and financial assistance to properties that need to comply with New York City's heavy heating oil regulations. And this was started as part of NYC back in 2012, and it was part of the air quality portion of NYC, which was the goal was to achieve the cleanest air of any U.S. city, and we're almost there. We're very close to it. The reason for the regulations and the reason why New York City took this on was because of a public health issue. The air quality in New York needed some improvement, and this was a really great way to tackle it. Actually, it was one of the highest impact strategies that New York City was able to undertake and provide its residents some of the cleanest air that it has seen in a really, really long time. So this all started in 2008 when the New York City air surveys were done. Fine particulate matter were at 30% higher on average in parts of the city with the highest densities of heavy heating oil use compared to lowest densities. And of course, fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5 as we call it, is responsible for respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. So in 2012 and 2013, we continued to monitor the air quality. And as a result of our program and some of the other initiatives that were undertaken as part of NYC, we have seen significant results in the reduction of air quality emissions. So nickel was reduced by 35%. Neighborhoods with the most clean heat boiler conversions had the greatest reductions in particulate matter emissions. And these accomplishments, and the reduction of heating fuel sulfur content will basically annually prevent hundreds of deaths, thousands of emergency room visits, and hundreds of hospitalizations. So it's an important public health issue that we're undertaking here. This is a little visual to help back up what I was talking about earlier in terms of the air quality and the reductions of emissions. back in 2008, 2009. You can see the hot spots of particulate matter of nickel, which also coincide with particulate matter emissions. And then in 2012, we conducted the same kinds of tests and saw great results, significant reductions. You can see that just by seeing these two maps here. But there's still a lot more work that can be done. We see some of these hotspots still exist. We have Midtown, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, parts of Northern Manhattan, the Bronx that you can see are still can use some improvement. And this is what we're trying to tackle in this last year of the phase out of number 6 oil. So when we saw that these particulate matter emissions were the result of basically boiler heavy heating oil use, these regulations were put into place. In 2011, the DEP finalized their regulations to eliminate heavy heating oil use in New York City. Phase 1 was to get rid of number 6 oil. So as of July 1st, 2012, DEP will no longer approve certificates of operation for number 6 oil, nor will they renew them. And since these permits are issued on a 3-year basis, the very last permits will be expiring from now until July 1st, 2015. So most permits have already expired. There's still some buildings that are coming up on expiration in the next few months, and this is what we're trying to address. Phase 2 will be to phase out number 4 oil. Number 4 oil is still contains and results in really high particulate matter emissions. Therefore, we are also trying to eliminate that from use in New York City. And the phase-out date will be 2030. However, most buildings will most likely have to get off of number 4 before that date as a result of boiler and burner replacements. So whenever you have to replace a burner or boiler, you will be required to at least go to number 2 oil. You will no longer be permitted to be on 4 or 6, which is why as part of the program we recommend, highly recommend, and really encourage people to skip number 4, go straight to number 2, natural gas, biodiesel, or any other alternatives that are available. Just from the picture here, you can see how it's pretty easy to visualize why these heavy heating oils are heavy. The impurities come out as a result of combustion, and they end up in our air. So this is why number 2 oil is a lot cleaner and better for the city. Just really quickly, who is eligible for clean heat assistance and which buildings need to comply. These are going to be buildings that are permitted by the DEP, and that permits by DEP, buildings are permitted by the DEP as a result of the size of their boilers. Usually it's around 40,000 square feet and above. If you're above 40,000 square feet, you will be required to have a permit, and if you're permitted by the DEP, you need to comply with these regulations. And if you have to comply with these regulations, you're eligible to receive help from us in the form of free technical and financial assistance. And if you're not sure if your building has to comply, if you have a permit for DEP, you can always check our Spot the Soot map, which for the address you can see right there. It's at nyccleanheat.org /spot the soot. You can just type in your address and see if your building or if your neighbor's building is burning number 6 or number 4, or has since moved to a cleaner option. And the target fuels that we encourage folks to convert to, I already spoke to this a little bit earlier. We encourage conversions to number 2 oil. We call it ultra low sulfur number 2. desulfurized and further better for emissions and lower emissions. Biodiesel blends, the city currently requires B2 in all fuels, but we encourage folks to take that even further, go to B5, B20, B20, which is basically 20% biodiesel and 80% of number 2 oil or whatever other fuel you have. You can take advantage of additional incentives from the state. There are some rebates for biodiesel blends. Also, natural gas is another good option. Prices are all-time lows, smaller PM 2.5 emissions, smaller carbon emissions. Steam, and any other alternatives that are available to your building, whether it's geothermal, cogeneration, solar thermal. And we do not encourage folks, again, to go to number 4 oil, and 6 is definitely out of the picture in the next few months. So the need for the regulations was observed. The regulations were put into place, and our program was put into place in an effort to assist folks with the process. We provide free technical and financial assistance to buildings that are permitted by the DEP and are required to convert. We have staff on hand that will guide buildings through the conversion process every step of the way. We work very closely with the utilities, industry leaders, trades, anyone out there that's involved in the process to really get you to where you need to be. And we provide strategic and custom recommendations to each building. We'll come out and meet with your building, come out and meet with your board, with whoever represents your property to explain what we do and why it's needed and the best way to go about it. We can also provide financial assistance, mostly in the form of financing, which can assist buildings, construction with the building's construction cost and the conversion cost. There are a number of financial partners that work with NYC Clean Heat to provide you with the necessary funds to complete these projects. Because number 6 and 4 is so inefficient, and there are the cleaner options are so much more, not only cleaner but also efficient. Most of the time, the paybacks are really good, and in some, if not most cases, buildings that take advantage of financing will see very short payback periods, and in some cases with zero money out of pocket necessary to do the work, if that's the way you want to handle such a conversion. Our website is there for your help. It has all the information that we're talking about today, all the information that we've been working on and uploading to the site since 2012, and it's nyc.gov/clean heat. You can also reach us by simply calling 311 and asking for clean heat. And of course, all our numbers are available. I've provided our number at the beginning as well. So please get in touch. So to get to the issue at hand here, what to do with expiring permits. If you're still using number 6 today, you really do need to act fast in order to comply with the regulations and avoid fines and avoid possible boiler shutdowns. We're reaching the end of our goal here, and basically by June 30th, 2015, all the remaining properties, the DEP permitted properties that are still on number 6, will no longer be allowed to burn number 6. So from now until June 30th, there's a few thousand buildings remaining that will need to convert to another option. Otherwise, the DEP will enforce the regulations. So by now, since we started in 2012, we're in 2014, at the last few months of the program, most permits have already expired. So if you haven't done anything yet, you're really already behind, you need to do something as soon as possible, at least start thinking about it and start working towards a conversion. If you still hold a permit, you do need to do something as soon as possible. And if you're currently in the process of converting, for example, if you're in the process of converting to natural gas, that process might take a really long time. Sometimes it takes a few months. Sometimes it might take a really long time, in which case we really recommend, and it's really required, that you take an interim step, such as conversion to number 2 or ultra low sulfur number 2, to get into compliance with DEP first, while you're undertaking a bigger conversion, such as a one to natural gas. Permit extensions are really issued on a very, very limited basis. Only a handful have been issued, and then they're only in specific cases, where DEP recognizes that you're at the very, very end of the process. So buildings that say that they're in the process, it's not good enough. You do have to do something as an interim step in order to get into that compliance first. So get into compliance. I mean, first thing you need to do, first thing we would recommend doing is just to get in touch with us. We will look up your building, figure out when your permit is expiring or when it has expired, and help you to figure out a specific strategy and path towards compliance. We would also recommend that you try to convert as soon as possible, preferably before the heating season. We're very close to the heating season right now, but that doesn't mean that that work can't be done in the next few weeks or months to get into compliance and work towards a cleaner fuel. Converting to ultra low sulfur 2 is what we recommend to get into full compliance. Again, since number 4 oil has a phase out date already, since number 4 oil really, in terms of price differences, doesn't have such a great price difference between number 2 and number 4, especially during the heating season, and because it's just still a heavy heating oil, we recommend that you go straight to number 2, get into full compliance, and move on. In order to do things quickly, sometimes, if you can, LAA permits, which are permits where contractors can basically self-certify, those jobs can go fairly quickly and don't require DOB inspections. We recommend, if possible, to do a simple grade change prior to the heating season, or shortly, or in the heating season, or shortly after the heating season. Using those LAA permits is a great way to do a simple grade change and get into compliance. And only after you get into compliance or figure out a path towards that, would we recommend that you look into other conversion options. You can take your building further, looking into natural gas as an option, CHP, solar thermal, anything else that's out there, but may just demand a longer project period. First think about the compliance piece, then move on to the possibly greater energy efficiency options. Some of the consequences of being out of compliance. Basically, it's the enforcement of DEP regulations. DEP has made their regulations a little bit more strict now in the last year or so of the clean heat enforcement. The very first strike is you'll get a notice of violation, but only after an inspector or someone from DEP comes out to confirm that you're out of compliance. A fine will be issued, and your building basically must comply with the regulations in order to avoid the next step, or the second or the last strike, which would be a cease and desist order. So if you don't comply with the notice of violation and don't get your building over to a cleaner option, you will be asked to attend the cease and desist ECB or Environmental Control Board hearing, and you'll have to stand in front of a judge, and they will basically give you a timeline and a path towards compliance and a timeline that you need to comply by. And if you don't comply in that required time, your boiler may be shut down. And boiler shutdown is usually not good. No heat and hot water is not something you'd like to have in your building. So additional consequences, in addition to fines, possible boiler shutdowns, there are other issues that come up that we know about. Obviously, you don't want your building to be out of compliance with city regulations, because that might bring up some insurance issues if anything ever happens. That may be looked at, that your building is out of compliance. We also hear about banks looking at compliance issues during loan processes. It's also an indication of the way the property is managed. So these regulations have been known for a long time. We've been out there trying to spread the word, offer our help to a lot of people. It's been known, and everyone should really be following the rules. And of course, there are environmental consequences as well. So the reason for this program is to improve air quality in New York City. If you choose to not comply, you are impacting the residents of the building, your neighbors, all of New York City, and being in the middle of Climate Week, I think that's a really important point. And just to kind of show you that, on the right here, we have a fine particulate matter graph, which shows huge reductions in particulate matter as you switch to cleaner options. You can see number 2 oil, or ultra low sulfur 2, and natural gas are significantly cleaner than number 4 and number 6 oil, which is why we're here. Quick slide about number 4. If you're on number 4, you're allowed to be on number 4 for the time being, as I mentioned earlier. But if your building will soon or sometime in the future be required to replace a burner or a boiler, you'll need to convert to number 2 gas or any of the other options that are available. But really, we want people to consider the most efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally conscious alternatives. So number 4 is not one of them. Natural gas prices are at their all-time lows. Everyone knows that. It's cleaner. It's a great choice. Ultra low sulfur, another really good choice from the liquid fuels, and it can be cheaper at times. Actually, especially during the peak of the heating season, ultra low sulfur 2 prices come at level with number 2 and number 4 and number 6. And of course, the soot from number 4 oil is still significant, especially when you compare that to ultra low sulfur 2. So the soot not only pollutes our air and the air of New York City, but also it pollutes your heating system. So the more heavier the grade of fuel, the more soot buildup you have in your boiler, the higher the efficiency losses you have. You clean your boiler once or twice a year, which most people do. You're looking at significant efficiency losses over the course of a year as a result of burning a heavier grade of fuel. Last but not least, benefits to comprehensive planning. There are a lot of regulations out there. Local Law 87, Local Law 84, clean heat regulations. It's best for folks to look at your building holistically and look at all these programs and regulations as one, and try to incorporate them into one big project if possible. All the programs and energy efficiency strategies are there to help you lower your energy costs. They're not just meant to make you pay more money, but in the end, most people end up saving a lot of money. Cleaner fuel means more efficient system, reduced emissions. Retro-commissioning and audits show how energy usage can be reduced. That's part of Local Law 84 and 87. Financing is also a really important part when you consider all of these options and you try to group them together. Financing projects, financing larger projects, and financing multiple projects together will lower the cost of capital. So it's really an important idea to consider. And planning initiatives together will basically get rid of will get rid of doubled efforts and wasted resources for overlapping projects. And of course, environmental, your building operations impact the environment and the public health of New York City. Clean heat conversions represent a large portion of carbon reductions, which a lot of incentive programs and might require. For example, you have NYCERDA programs such as the Multifamily Performance Program, other energy efficiency programs from your utilities. If you group those things together, they really make more sense, and your buildings impact on the environment will be significantly reduced.